Unlike Donald Trump, the Pope is in an office that was not man-made but instead was established by God himself. Here's how I know that. During his ministry, Jesus had 12 close disciples that he entrusted more teaching and authority to. But among those disciples, Peter was the chief. Peter was the first to acknowledge and call Jesus the Messiah. As a result, Jesus changes his name, says he's going to build his church upon Peter, and gives him the keys of the kingdom of heaven. We also see Jesus saying that even though all of the disciples' faith will be sifted like wheat, he is praying specifically for Peter's faith that it will never fail. And before Jesus ascends back into heaven, he entrusts specifically Peter with his flock and tells him to tend and care for his sheep. Now, after Jesus ascends back into heaven, we see that he leaves his church with three distinct roles: bishops, presbyters, and deacons. The bishop was the highest office, and that's the role that the apostles took on. Now, we know according to 1st and 2nd century texts that St. Peter and St. Paul were the ones that founded the church at Rome. We also see that the Church of Rome was given exclusive authority and roles. For example, in AD 80, we see that the Church of Corinth writes a letter to the Bishop of Rome, which at the time was St. Clement of Rome, and they ask for his instruction and guidance. Now, Clement was 700 miles away, and there were other nearby cities they could have written to, but they knew the Bishop of Rome had a unique authority compared to other churches. And we also see Clement somewhat acknowledging this authority when he says if they fail to obey his words that they may be guilty of sin. In the 2nd century, we also see Dionysius of Corinth writing to the Church of Rome saying that it's their custom to do good to all the churches in the area. He also mentions that at church services, he would read his letters out loud to his congregation, as well as the letters from Clement of Rome, his predecessor. So clearly the Bishop of Rome had a special level of honor and authority. Now lastly, in the 2nd century, we have the writings of St. Irenaeus, and in his letters he refers to the Church of Rome as the greatest and most ancient church known to all. He also writes that because of this church's superior origin, all the churches everywhere and all the faithful must agree with it. He also mentions that it is in her that the apostolic tradition, the tradition from the apostles, has been preserved. As each century goes on in church history, the office of the Bishop of Rome is more explicitly fleshed out. That is just who the Pope is. He is the bishop of all bishops. He is the source of unity in the Catholic Church. And no, he is not greater than Jesus, of course not. But his office was founded by Jesus, and that's why Catholics and all Christians everywhere need to respect it and obey it.